Thank you. Very clear. And I think the last 2 points you mentioned, what needs to be done, is quite interesting, because this is something we found on the first panel, and we find it back again at the European level or international one, because stuff is going around everywhere. So perhaps just 1 or 2 questions, because we should leave. Here's one question.
Yes, again, Philippe Zado. Now I'm not talking about dyslexia, but about business and numeric business, as I was an entrepreneur from that. And I know numeric is evolving, digital technologies are evolving very fast. There is so much public money for enterprise that come there. And it could be great that everybody could get the benefits of this money, and this is not the time now. So could you think sometimes in Europe we can have some regulation asking each company getting public money to have an accessibility of his services? I hope you understand my English.
That was a question for Joanna, or? Perhaps you may want to.
Yes, maybe I forgot to mention it during my presentation, but indeed there were a few respondents. A few respondents had different other ideas than the funding from the budget, or for example, they thought that you could think about sponsorship agreement or advertising agreements with companies. So as for example, some of the in exchange for that, yes, that this way, like the accessibility services could be sponsored, or could, or that you could find some other ways than just the public funding to. Yes, to finance. No, it's not the question.
No.
I thought it was connected to what.
It's not. I didn't ask you to pay for accessibility.
Yes.
I say when there is public money given to a company,
yes,
they must have accessibility.
I can explain.
Okay, make me.
Maybe you understand me.
I think we have those kind of rules in for film industry, for example. If you have the state is financing part of the film, then it should have subtitles, for example, in Sweden. And I think that in Germany, I heard very recently that they have for audio description as well. And I know that in Norway, I think it's important here because you cannot just support the content provider, you also have to support the distribution chain. So in Norway, they have that kind of system both for distribution and content, because what has happened in my country is that the cinema owners does not want to, put any technical things in their cinema. So you have to go through the whole value chain. But I think this is very much what we are asking for. If you get public funding, yes, then you have to use it for accessibility, and it happens in some countries. Was that
another answer? Otherwise, there's another question.
Well, just to let you know, there might be a lot of public funding and money, but there's none coming to people like me who are actually creating this stuff. So there's a lot of public money, but where it goes, and it goes to many, many good places, but it's not getting to the 1,000 filmmakers that I talk to every year.
Not yet.
And not yet, but and it's not, and they don't, and none of it comes to me to actually promote what we're talking about today, because I'm talking to people who are making stuff, consuming stuff, then they're making it for us right now, but they don't know what the hell we're talking about when we talk about inclusion, disability, impairment. They don't know that. They should be, a lot of public money, whatever, they should be coming down towards people like us who are talking directly to the people making films for us. Sorry, that's my little spleen thing.
Yeah, but I can, and there's one other problem, because I think some business models, they then there's a third party who is going to do something. If you have audio description, then maybe there's a third party company, a small entrepreneur that will provide something, and who will pay for that service? It's if it's a third party, it's not the provider. This is an issue, I think, as well.
Yeah, that's important to consider. There's one more question, and But coming to you, I would like perhaps the last one. I would like to get your reaction regarding what you heard from the first panel and on panel, and what you can take as conclusion from there. But there was another question before.
Hi, I'm from Canada, and we have legislation that basically mandates everyone has to do it at every single level, and there's no public money for it. It's just natural course of doing business. And I find it interesting in Europe, because in Canada we look at Europe as being very inclusive as well. But from what I hear from being here, that's not the case, and it's quite a struggle for you. So we have tax incentives on the back end that if you provided services, you can reclaim some of those costs at least. But there's no public money for any of this. And from a broadcasting standpoint, every single cable subscriber in Canada pays 25 cents off of every bill to fund accessible media. So we have a dedicated channel to accessibility, Accessible Media Inc., and every carrier has to carry it. It's a mandatory, as well as one channel in English, one channel in French. So I'm wondering why there hasn't been that sort of legislative push from the EU to say, this is the way it is. For us, it's a human rights issue. We can't discriminate against someone with a disability. So I'm surprised that I'm hearing this challenge in Europe.
This is a great and interesting point of view, because this is why we're doing this kind of things and what we're discussing. It's to learn from best practices anyway. But perhaps you may want to, perhaps there is any issue in Europe which is interesting, and we believe
Yes, I believe this is. It's only because the EU, all the governments of EU member states, they couldn't agree on introducing more stringent rules. In fact, the Article 7 of the current directive was a compromise. What we have now is only the member states shall encourage. This is how it's formulated. This was the most we could achieve, which means that it is not that the Commission didn't want to propose more. It's that the EU governments are not prepared to be, that there are like stronger obligations are imposed on them. So I'm not even sure if we can change this article to impose any quotas on member states. As it is now, it's only encouragement and only gradually, and I don't think that at this stage, the governments are ready to accept more.
Well, I was in Canada at a standardization meeting, and you are using the must-carry obligation to finance the system. One thing, though, is that it seemed to me that it was almost a monopoly who produced the content. Do you have?
It's every broadcaster.
Yeah, but there was one big producer for the that got a lot of money for training and so on. So I think that might be a thing in Europe, that you have many different countries and you have many different legislations, and so it's easier if you're one country, I guess.
But that's why I'm wondering why it's not coming down from the EU side and saying this is what we're doing, whether it's digital accessibility or media accessibility. And yes, Canada is only one country, but each province has to implement it themselves. So in Ontario, what it did was it bred an entire industry. There's now a complete accessibility services industry. I'm part of it. And it bred all of these new opportunities for people to figure it out. It created an entire industry just built around accessibility services.
From the user organization point of view, we love the right-based. But maybe.
No, I think I can end more.
I mean, there's 26 cats fighting in a bag. That's what it is. To be honest, that's exactly what it is.
And there can't be consensus about everyone should have equal access to content?
That's a big bag.
I guess,
but I think there's one thing, and just talking about public money, I'm not the guy to sit there and say public money and whatever. I'm out making films, and that's what these guys are doing. I think there should be support, but I think one of the biggest things about it for me is an issue of communication. I think if these 26 cats fighting in a bag knew the facts and figures, that what we're talking about here, about how many people are missing out and what they're missing out on, then there would be a push, not from above but from below. And I think that always wins. I mean, if you've got 26 cats fighting in a bag, that's fine. But if you've got 2 million people outside saying, hey, we want to watch this, we want to hear this, that's a different thing. That's why I keep proposing all the time. Don't give people like me public money to go and do this and do this. Communicate the damn issue to the people who are actually voting for these guys, and then I think you win. I mean, I travel. I've been to more places than I can even remember, but I didn't know of this issue until I met her. And I think if we were to communicate this around the EU in a clever way and say to people, hey, do you know that you're missing out on this, and we could actually fix this? And there's more and more and more of them every day. I've got a pair of glasses as well. So.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. But this is the situation that we have in different countries in Europe, and each different country has a different legislation concerning that. As one colleague of my department usually says, we should be in Europe very, very, very happy because we have a lot of space for improvement. You see? This is why I was mentioning that all the stakeholders in the complete value chain should be addressed concerning this issue, because we need the support from many entities, and one of them is the government, local, regional, and maybe global government. 28, but we are too many. We need legislation which supports to some extent the provision of those services. There are some other environments in which the provision of different services is already protected to some extent, or maybe guaranteed. I know that, for example, in Spain, with companies which are bigger than, I don't know the number of people, and with incomes higher than, I don't know the figure, they have the obligation to invest a particular amount in people with some kind of impairment, by providing jobs or by investing in specific entities or maybe groups that will use that money in this environment. For example, if the legislation is modified, this money could be needed, at least a part of it, for the provision of those services that currently are not guaranteed at all. Well, not at all. We have a minimum, and legislation is trying to guarantee a minimum, but very much can be done. So we have a lot of space for improvement, as I was saying.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much for all of you. We need to leave the room because I would like to prepare for the next steps. I would love to stay in contact with all of you in order to go ahead and to find solutions. Thank you very much for everybody. Please remember that Scott is here just some minutes, but we would like to get some interviews. So please feel free and come to do it. I don't know whether you have been filmed. If not, I'll catch you. There was some for others. Thank you very much. And it's coffee break.
Thank you, boss.